Happy Monday afternoon, everyone. Thanks for checking in the Traded Black podcast. I'm your host, sdales. Hope you all had a great weekend. Hello to our Canadian audience as well, who's on a holiday today. Canadian markets are closed, which usually means cannabis stocks should be in the green, right? Nope. Why? Interesting to say the least. Main reason why you should be on here today, we're going to talk to Dan Ahrens, some MSOS, I should say, and talk about just the news from last week and what we can anticipate moving forward heading into the next couple of weeks. As we traditionally know, the summer months can be some trying times, but we want to dive into some of these safe harbor language type topics and what it's going to take to hear and see for these big banks to eventually come in. So let's welcome in TDR co-host back to the podcast. How was the couple days off, Anthony Varrell? Good to see you.
Yes, it's well, I'd like to say it was good, but it really wasn't. Last week was a little tough. Sometimes you need a little bit of a mental health break, and it was good. I was ready to have a busy week this week.
Yeah, that's good. Got Dan Ahrens coming up as well, but Anthony is back, Jack, and that's a good thing. And did you get a chance to watch the PGA Championship over the weekend? It was a heck of a tournament.
I did. All my boys fell apart. I had Tagala and Morikawa, but it was good to see Schauffele pull it off finally. I was rooting for Bryson.
Me too.
Part of me always likes to see the live guys win the majors, just to stick it to the PGA. But no, it was great. I mean, I'm looking forward to the U.S. Open. I think it's in 2 weeks, which I get to see the course I played about a month ago on TV for the U.S. Open. So that'll be fun.
Crazy with Scotty Scheffler, all that stuff, and then 2 days later,
I have a cannabis water bottle. I don't need the coffee mug.
There you go.
As per the comments.
Gotcha. But yeah, what a time to be stretching before you're round in a jail cell by Scotty Scheffler. But
that was funny. They dropped all the charges as expected.
That was crazy.
What was funny was the memes, because everyone got his mugshot, and then Dave Portnoy actually made shirts with Scotty's mugshot on it. But no, it was a good tournament. Occupied a lot of the weekend, and then it was nice to see the Timberwolves beat the pants off of the Nuggets last night.
Yeah. Hurricane Man writes, you guys were lost without Anthony last week. Still love the show. Wow, is my self-confidence just getting boosted by the minute. Good thing you're here, buddy. All right, let's jump into the wire. TDR Traded Black podcast, Straight Monday afternoon. I'm your host, sdales, along with the man that knows how to navigate us. It's that way we're not lost anymore. According to Hurricane Man, is Anthony Varrell. Good to see you.
Hurricane. It's like a rudderless boat. It's it goes with the name.
Let's kick things off, and just some rumors. Tilray, as we know, wanting to enter into the U.S. As they basically are involving, basically made an announcement late last week that they have filed an offering of its common shares to raise up $250 million. Anthony, dilution on the horizon for current shareholders. However, do you agree with this approach? Like, obviously, people are going to be pretty upset and mad that are current shareholders, but is this the right strategy to do as they try to build a bigger footprint in the U.S. market?
So, I mean, it wouldn't be proper without talking about dilution if we're talking about Tilray. At the same time, I was surprised to see this because, I mean, we had Erwin on a couple months back, and I mean, he was pretty adamant that the point of entry into the U.S. for them was legalization or descheduling. So to see them kind of throw out this financing potentially for $250 million to potentially acquire U.S. assets as we inch closer to rescheduling. And they were very adamant about their entry point would be descheduling to legalization. I mean, I think we need to get Erwin back on to kind of talk what the strategy is. And has their viewpoint changed in the past couple of months? I mean, obviously it can. You see SNDL, almost called them Sundial. You see SNDL and Canopy kind of ring fencing those assets. I mean, we talked to Michael from Village Farms, and he said his perspective could change depending on their structure and how that goes. But maybe things have changed for Tilray. It'd be interesting to see what they purchase. $250 million could get you some decent assets in the United States. It's just a function of how dilutive is it and how strategic are those assets, and will they try to pair them with the current alcohol assets that they have. So I mean, I don't mind the headline. I just think that it leaves a lot to be asked from Erwin and the team over at Tilray.
How would you best describe, I guess, like this company, their strategy? Like, yes, the Canadian market, yes, the international market, but when it comes to the US market, we're getting a better idea and understanding of CUSA with obviously Canopy. However, with
Yeah.
Tilray, it seems like there's a lot of moving parts right now, don't you think?
So Tilray don't have any plant touching leverage potentially to the US. I think they have a call option on MedMen,
Yep,
which
they do.
I don't know where that agreement stands, judging by the assets being in receivership and MedMen finally getting uh, just biting the bullet and just going into bankruptcy. I think Tilray's U.S. strategy, like I said, I think there's a lot to be unearthed. There's a lot of questions that I would like to ask Erwin
Yeah.
around this financing and around the future of their strategy into the U.S. Is I would be willing to bet that that strategy has shifted somewhat since we last spoke to him.
Well, beverages obviously is at the front and center, but as we all know, like the immediate near term, there's big horizon or big opportunity on the horizon for beverages, but that's
Oh yeah,
obviously not the first thing that's going to come down. The domino effect of how this industry starts to progress and move, the first movers is going to be obviously flour and edibles, but
the thing too is with the MedMen bankruptcy, Brady got the best asset in the portfolio with the Florida operation.
yeah, he did.
So I mean, if you go and
That's a good
acquire
move.
if you go and take the MedMen, if you go and take the MedMen assets out of receivership, I mean, I'm sure you're getting California, Nevada. Not sure what other assets they still had in their portfolio. Now, I mean, their store on Tropicana, right off the Strip in Vegas, which is usually my first stop every time I go to Vegas, still
Yeah.
is a MedMen. It's in prime location, but I mean, I wouldn't call their Nevada assets prime by any means. So I mean, yeah, like I said, this gives me a lot more questions than answers, but it was intriguing to see,
Yeah.
which is why I thought we should definitely address it.
Yeah. Okay. So to all reviewers out there that's always right about Tilray, I'll reach out to actually Carl Merton, and he's always usually
Yeah,
the first person that hooks us up as far as getting an interview with Irwin. But I'm sure he could probably provide us with some dialogue and direction too. But if we do speak to Irwin and get an interview with Irvin, it's probably going to be not for another week or two. But what
yeah,
I can do in the meantime is at least get some information from Carl and get back to you guys on what this announcement means, and most importantly, what their strategy is into the U.S. market, knowing that we had last week's announcement. But by the way, you were away and I didn't get a chance to talk, but what'd you think of that announcement? Basically the Biden administration now making it official, and we're going to wait obviously 90 days, the comment period, maybe 180 days, who knows? But
yeah. It was good. I mean, obviously my sources were right. I think I was the first person
well
on
done.
Twitter to announce that. But I mean, it was great. It's good to see Biden talking the talk again. Now it leaves more questions than answers. What does timing look like? Does it get done before the election? All the speculators are out, and I really don't think that anyone no one has a clue. The good thing was to be able to read through the OLC memo
Yeah.
that came out. I mean, I read through that last night. It was exactly what we thought. It reinforced the notion that the two-part process was legitimate. We're in compliance with the UN treaties, and the OLC memo was heavy, and I mean, it was heavy in our favor, which was great to see.
You're turning into the Adam Scheffner of cannabis. You got all your
It would be
inside
nice.
resources, but that's good. All right, let's now move and shift now to Washington and Georgia Senator Raphael Warnock, who, in case you didn't know, he was the lone senator who voted against safer banking last year, saying that he supports the reform, but wants to ensure that communities most impacted by cannabis prohibition are not left behind. Well, the latest is now involving Warnock being less critical of the measure that he outlined in an interview on MSNBC over the weekend. So you want to fill us in on this, Anthony?
Yeah, so I mean, he said he wasn't against SAFE. He admitted that he did openly vote against it.
Yep.
But he said that it doesn't expunge any records, it doesn't get anybody out of jail. I mean, okay, thank you, Captain Obvious. Like, we understand that safe banking doesn't do that. That's why Hope is going to get attached to it and then just get it through. Like,
Yep.
there are levers to be pulled to accommodate the social equity piece, the expungement of records, the getting people out of jail. There are plenty of bills and levers that they can pull. They just need to pull them. It's like they don't want to. Like, the Hope Act is literally sitting there. That was his chance to say, look, there is legislation that's been written to support this cause. It's called the Hope Act. The Hope Act can get attached to SAFE, and then you get banking and criminal justice reform to an
Bingo.
extent done at the same time. It's almost like they're clueless. when it comes to this stuff. Like,
Well,
I don't understand why he didn't take the time to actually address the full idea when he had the stage this weekend to speak.
Yeah, and for all of our viewers out there, hopefully you got a chance to see the interview that I did with Don Murphy that was released on Saturday. But you're right. The HOPE Act is basically the expungement money for the states, which we all know President Joe Biden needs, and is making this obviously an important one as he needs safe banking now more than ever, because he had conversations with a number of senators last week that talked about the correlation between the two, and they did not push back whatsoever. So the next steps is just, you've got to get this in front of that Biden administration and let him know, like, if he wants basically HOPE to pass, he needs SAFE to pass too. So now we're on to the next topic of conversation. Now that rescheduling is in the comment period, we're now in the quiet period to see how things kind of transpire over the next 30 to 60 days. Go ahead.
Didn't Don express that SAFE he doesn't think gets passed until after the election?
Lame duck session.
Yeah. Also, somebody in the comments just said that a federal judge has actually granted the request to allow public access to the hearing, which is that hearing that they're referring to as the boys lawsuit on Wednesday.
Interesting.
Yeah. That is going to be very interesting.
Very interesting, to say the least. Interesting week, big week, for a number of things. So be interesting to see, obviously, how that lawsuit is going to come to fruition. But
also, one thing also to be added to the Warnock commentary. I mean, it is interesting that Warnock and McConnell have voiced opposition to cannabis, but they have seemed very favorable to hemp. And I mean, just looking at Georgia, there's 118 licensed hemp producers in Georgia. And I mean, I know we're going to get into the Farm Bill next, which is hopefully going to get reworked. But it is interesting that when you look at industrial hemp and you look at hemp and some of these politicians from the South, they won't bat an eye at hemp, as hemp is currently active in their states and it's flourishing, but they are somewhat against the traditional cannabis industry.
Well, Senator
Just goes
Warnock,
to show you.
Senator Warnock, Sungrown Kit writes he's a major recipient of Big Pharma. What he is, and I see a lot of similarities with Senator Booker. Like, they don't want basically the typical Wall Street executive making all this money, and it's challenging. It becomes very, very complicated and very, very political in these situations. And there's no right or wrong answer, but you can understand from a business aspect, it's like you need the proper banking in place to obviously let this grow. And there's a lot of people that are involved in the industry that actually would benefit from all different, walks of life, so to speak. And that's, how much I'll say based off that. But it is what it is right now. Big week, as you said, obviously, with the boys lawsuit. Also, last topic I want to bring up, big week this week, is it's the markup time, or should say markup for the Farm Bill, and their proposed changes that are being reviewed. So can you walk us through on what's being proposed to be changed or reviewed, and why it's important?
Yeah, right now they're vying for reducing the regulatory barriers for hemp farmers, which would include people with prior drug felony convictions, but it doesn't include a ban on hemp-derived cannabis products.
Okay,
this is my biggest, I guess my biggest opposition to the way the Farm Bill is currently written. I mean, allow Delta 9, allow intoxicating hemp products that are regulated and tested, but get all the other shit out of the industry. We don't need Delta 8, Delta 10, THCV, THCO. These non-regulated derivative products don't need to be in the market. You don't need them. If you want to do things like THCV that's been shown to maybe suppress appetites and be more of a health supplement, go right ahead. But regulate and test it and do it in a compliant manner. The draft also redefines hemp into two categories: cannabinoid extraction and industrial purposes. I'm assuming the extraction is going to be purely consumer products. It's not going to be the way that it's defined now. And then industrial will be industrial hemp that's grown for hempcrete, as well as any sort of fabric applications. And I mean, there's a lot of industrial applications for hemp, but it's good that they're bifurcating them, because they shouldn't be classified into one, especially when you talk about intoxicating products. That's something that absolutely needs to be revisited. And then the USDA may independently accredit labs for sample testing with those derivative products. From my understanding, there's a large bottleneck when it comes to lab testing right now for intoxicating hemp products. This would fix that, as the FDA will be able to deem lab testing accreditation and broaden out the number of actual testing labs that are able to test hemp-derived products. It all looks good on the surface. Curious to see how the Farm Bill markup as it relates to hemp will also somehow segue into regulations that we're going to see for rescheduling. Because I don't think that you're going to see Delta 9 hemp-derived products still be able to have the DTC eligibility online and interstate commerce that they're currently able to act in with the rescheduling of the traditional cannabis industry. There's going to be a line drawn somewhere. No one knows where that line is going to be drawn, but I think there is going to be a line drawn sooner or later.
So if once reviewed and changes are made, how quickly does this come into effect?
Oh, the Farm Bill's not. This probably won't get passed for some time now.
Yeah.
This is markup week. I think there's going to be a ton of markups, but at the same time, I mean, this Farm Bill has been blocked when it's hit the floor a couple times already. This isn't going to be a quick process whatsoever.
No. Well said, Anthony. Thank you for your insight. Says Phoenix Dave Wave. Indeed. The Dan Conformer writes, hemp-derived cannabinoids are just lab-made synthetic garbage.
That guy knows his hemp, by the way. He was on our spaces last week, dropping a lot of knowledge on the hemp-derived and the hemp space. So I mean, he's a plethora of knowledge when it comes to those topics.
Yeah. That concludes Into the Wire here, the Trade of Black podcast here on a Monday. Don't forget, as usual, smash that like button. YouTube picks up those algorithms and makes referral videos based on you smashing that like button and providing lots of comments. So if you could do that, greatly appreciated. And as usual, make sure to log on to thedalesreport.com and subscribe to our Baked In newsletter. Had a good show with Small Cap Sunday last night with Mr. Bill McFarland. We highlighted High Tide and whether or not we would own that stock. So we did a deep dive into the company. I think there's some interesting things. So if you haven't gotten a chance to review it yet, make sure to log on to our YouTube channel, which you already are. But check out that video afterwards and give us reasons why we, in so many words, like the company, the direction that it's going. As well, we're going to highlight 4 new stocks that we are watching and why in our newsletter this week. So make sure to subscribe to get all the latest information pertaining to that. All right, Ahrens, it's time for segment number 2, which is MSOS Monday. Let's tee it up. Happy Monday, sir. How are you?
Saying happy Monday is some strong wording, Shad. It's kind of an ugly Monday. So no,
stocks were in the green today because Canadian markets were closed, right?
Yeah, I don't know. Nobody knows. I wish I hadn't worn this shirt this morning, but it's a mess out there. And yes, everybody has questions, but no, there's not really answers. People were selling, and then it kind of compounded on itself late in the day. I didn't do it.
I was surprised. I mean, historically, if you look at days the Canadian market's closed, the OTC names are usually green.
I think I agree more often than not.
I mean, I know Jason Spatafora Wolf is not too popular nowadays, but he used to trade. He'd make trades on Friday. With the Canadian markets being closed on Monday, and usually do pretty good on those trades, clip anywhere between like 5 to 8% just on those being closed with the ARB that you'd see with the markets closed. I'm really surprised to see what was going on today, especially after coming out of last week. So I guess we really can't blame our friends up north perennially for the price action that we're seeing in the sector.
No, there's so much talk about blame. No, it's not the Canadian market. It's not the fund. It's more people selling than buying today. And, we do need to expand on this, talk about it, what's going to happen in the coming months while we're waiting for inputs. But no, volume is not great. They're easy to push around. Somebody is selling more than somebody's buying. We also... Last week we talked a little bit about all the Canadian volumes. And you see Tilray on huge volume, but it's red today too. It's down
Correct.
something percent. And pretty much all the Canadians are down. But big volume and much more availability, listing on major exchanges. But those things don't make stocks go up necessarily.
No, but I mean, I think the main part of the thesis that is still intact is the fundamentals of these underlying assets is it's going up and to the right. So I mean, if you know what you own, and I mean, obviously this is not financial advice, but if you know what you own, the price action really shouldn't bother you if you're taking a long-term approach to this and you're not a trader.
Yeah, that's easier said than done.
It's real easy to say. It's real easy to say, and obviously don't find solace in that statement. But I mean, truly, GTI, Verano, Air, they're getting stronger by the day. Rescheduling's happening. Adult use in Florida we're getting closer to November every day that passes. Ohio coming online, Pennsylvania coming online. I'm not trying to be a cheerleader for the sector, but fundamentally, we literally are getting better every single day.
There's still so many investors.
There's going to be an inflection point. There's going to be an inflection point to where these things can't go down.
There's just so many investors in this space that try to time the market.
You can't time the market.
I know.
But that being said, I mean, it's a little bit deflating, and I can obviously understand where everybody's coming from when we actually get rescheduling, like concrete. The Biden administration coming out and saying it's going to happen, and I mean we're trading down. I'm curious to see what happens tomorrow. Apparently, the proposed rule is supposed to hit the Federal Register, so I'm assuming that's going to have some sort of semantics that'll have something to like in there, and we can kind of take it from there.
Well, especially after today with such an ugly day, Anthony, and I agree with everything you just said. That hitting the Federal Register tomorrow could be one of those nice inputs here. So then on Wednesday, we're going to have the Boys lawsuit, and it just got announced that that's going to be available for public viewing online, which is awesome because the case is very strong. I know pretty much everybody that's involved in the suit, and it's good stuff. So that's another thing, another messaging out there. But if we turn back to talking about fundamentals and talking about volumes and so on, because I feel like I've been talking that 3 or 4 years now, and we're still waiting. And that's why a day like today is frustrating as hell. But while I was in the waiting room, you guys were talking about Tilray a little bit.
Yep.
Well, if they didn't have such outrageous executive comp, if they didn't burn money in the Canadian markets, maybe they could have, a lot of investors say, oh, they got so much money, they're going to be the big winner. Well, why the hell are they doing a $250 million raise? I thought they had, money to burn to buy into the U.S.
Yeah,
correct.
Yeah, I think they're going to survive. I don't think they're going away anywhere.
No,
I think they're eventually going to be able to get into the U.S., but they're going to have to buy their way in. They don't have any licenses. They're going to have to acquire somebody. They're going to be starting at square one as compared to all the U.S. operators that, Anthony, you were just re-emphasizing. The fundamentals are still improving. They are.
How much of a player do you think they could be? How much of a player do you think they can be in the U.S. market?
Not with $250 million. You can't buy shit.
No.
I mean, what are they going to buy? I mean, judging by no one's going to sell their business that's publicly traded right now for what it's worth.
Yeah.
From a market cap perspective, that they're not going to be able to go take out like an Air or somebody.
No.
$250 million is not going to get you a formidable footprint to come and play in the United States.
They got no operations. They got no licenses. They're going to buy their way in, but they're light years behind Curaleaf, Verano,
and I mean,
GTI, Cresco.
Yeah. And I mean, they do have the call option, not the call option, I hate to call it that, on the MedMen assets.
Yeah.
I don't even know what the MedMen assets are.
Nobody does.
Like we said, Brady got the best one, being the Florida asset. That is obviously, once it was rebranded and put under his good graces, I mean, they're doing well. They're doing very well, and they have very good locations. But I mean, outside of that, I couldn't tell you, aside from the Fifth Avenue store and, like I said, that one store in Vegas, I don't know what MedMen even has under the hood anymore.
Jesus. I'm just looking at some of the salaries for some of these CEOs on right now. But you are right. Is it 16 million?
Yeah, Erwin.
And then you give a comparison, and Kim's at like 3, and that's a big difference. Big difference.
Yeah, it's outrageous.
One also has $1 billion annualized run rate.
Yeah. I don't know if you got a chance to see my interview that I had with Don Murphy that was posted over the weekend, Dan, but interesting things he was saying. He thinks timeline is safe, basically, is probably lame duck session. If it were to pass prior to the election, based on summer recess and then going to an election season, we would have to get this passed by latest end of July. But he's like, things are about to become very political pertaining to this bill. Yep. However, he does believe that he strongly believes that it has a greater chance of passing safe versus, say, Measure 3 when it comes to Florida, which I found rather interesting. But anyway, I don't know if you got a chance to see any of it, but
yeah, I saw some of it. Well, we also had him on our nooner today, so we got a lot of the same.
There you go. There you
Wait,
go.
he said, hold on. Don said that he thinks safe has a better chance of passing than 3.
Yeah, he said it in a couple of tweets on Friday morning.
Yeah, I didn't see that in particular, but here's my thought on that.
I don't agree with that whatsoever.
We think the world of Don, and he's very, very connected, but he's very, very connected to what is moving through the House and Senate in Washington.
Correct.
He's very disconnected from what's happening with 3 in Florida. He's also, disconnected from the rescheduling. Now, does he know a fair amount about those things? Of course he does. Oh, he lives and breathes this stuff. But his real sandbox is what's happening in Congress with SAFE and HOPE and everything else. So
you give a reasoning?
I don't put a lot of weight on that, on what his thoughts on Florida are.
I mean, I would be willing to bet that 3 has a much higher percentage chance of passing this than SAFE.
The good thing is, I think most people in our space don't really care about SAFE for now. No. We're waiting on the rescheduling. And very, very importantly, I was talking about this earlier in the house. I am of the camp that the rescheduling is definitely happening now, as Anthony was just saying. And the rescheduling means we have got to 100% get guidance from the DOJ, Attorney General's office. What we always keep talking about is this Garland memo. We don't know if this Garland memo is a real unicorn that's going to have everything in it that we want, but there is something, because we're not going to have medical doctors writing prescriptions for cannabis.
That can't happen.
No. There is 100% guidance coming from the DOJ once the Schedule 3 is finalized. And that possibly could make safe banking a little bit of a moot point. It could make safe banking nice to have rather than a need to have. We don't know. We don't know.
Yeah.
With regards to Florida, this is what he outlined actually in some of his tweets, Anthony. He wrote on, Friday, that he believes that under 60% threshold, they're not there as far as getting it passed. He's not privy to what their campaign is doing, but he also thinks that Florida is winnable and also losable, that no red state has ever passed adult use. Arizona hit 60%, but you wouldn't classify that as a red state, which was what he was kind of outlining.
Wait, you mean no red state has ever passed adult use above 60%?
Correct.
Okay. I mean, Ohio is 50. It hit 57.2. So, I mean, sure, he's factually correct. We'll see what happens. I mean, I'm pretty confident that 3 is going to pass. I think it's going to need a lot of work. There needs to be a lot of work done. But I think 3 passes.
Then on the flip side, you talk about, red states. Fox News, actually, not Business News, but Fox News, they outlined that legalizing cannabis nationwide has an approval rate as of Friday at 69%. And that's about as red as it gets.
Who do you think's watching Fox News? A
Red.
lot of Florida.
Totally.
And especially you lump in the fact that abortion's on there too, and they're getting the word out. I like its odds in Florida to pass.
Yeah. Safe. I think they just need to attach hope to and just get it done. Give the progressive left their crumbs of criminal reform and just get it through.
Well, that's what he said. He had some very encouraging conversations with a number of senators that basically said you need to get through the Biden administration that says, Biden needs HOPE Act to pass. And with that, he absolutely needs SAFE attached to that. And that's encouraging to say the least. And like the biggest step in the right direction was that a lot of these senators were actually even really unfamiliar with that. But once he had a chance to have the conversation with them and educate them on that, they said, yeah, this is something important that we got to get through to the appropriate team. But that's part of his job, but it just kind of blows my mind away still. I guess they get presented a lot of bills on a daily basis, but simple things like it's common sense for us, these people are unaware of on their end in Washington. But here's hoping, obviously, the message can get through to the appropriate people.
Yeah.
TDR Trade Black Podcast, MSO Monday with Dan Ahrens. Dan,
a lot of people commenting on TerraSend today in the comments about the business. I've seen like 5 comments about TerraSend being a fundamentally sound business.
Yeah. Were they down? Was it 9%?
Oh, I've got a shitload of the stock. So yeah, it's down 9%. So yeah, for absolutely no reason.
Yeah. Drew Dinkins writes, TerraSend is the most fundamentally sound MSO.
Don't know if I'd go, but yeah.
Everybody got opinions, but we like it as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. About our 7th favorite MSO.
I'm a big fan of what Jason and Ziad are doing with Jersey, PA, Maryland, Michigan. I think we see them expand via acquisition here shortly after Jason on the conference call.
Yeah,
I'd expect.
Alluded to that. There's a couple markets that they need to grow by. They need to grow by acquisition. They're not going to organically grow into states.
Yeah. Well, one thing I think
I'm interested to see what the next couple of quarters is like for them.
Dan, Anthony and I talked about this at the conclusion of earnings season. I think operation efficiency was front and center for a lot of these MSOs, which is very encouraging to see. And Kim told me on Friday in an interview, it's like these institutions to obviously have interest, show me the money and the pathway to revenue. And I think this is exactly what a lot of these companies are beginning to do. The operations is becoming more sophisticated. Whatever companies needed to make the changes, they appear that they have. But you're starting to slowly but surely start to see these big companies separate themselves from the rest of the industry, don't you think?
That's a great point and a very important point, because we keep, drooling for uplisting and for the institutional broker-dealers and banks to remove their cannabis non-allowed lists. So does that mean it's going to rain money from the sky immediately?
Right.
No. And here's why. Because then you're going to have institutional banks and broker dealers looking under the hood of these companies. They're going to do their due diligence.
Yep.
They're not going to blindly invest in a bunch of cannabis companies and accidentally buy a MedMen. They are going to seriously look at the fundamentals, the executive comp, the free cash flow, what's on the balance sheet, what markets they're in, and they are going to look at TerraSend differently than they look at TrueLeaf, differently than they look at Curaleaf and GTI and everything else. It's going to be not retail investors. It's going to be true institutional money, and they're going to do their due diligence.
Yep. One thing that grabbed our attention, though, Anthony, was that 58% gross margin that TrueLeaf reported, and
I think there's about 6. I think there's about 6 companies that institutions will find investable in the sector to probably deploy capital.
Yeah.
Not going to name names, but you could probably guess who those top 6 are, and then there's some flyers that'll have some torque as well.
Bullshark writes, he wants to ask about a specific company. I'd like to steer clear of these questions from you, Dan. I know this is something that you guys, we can't really ask those questions to Dan on how he feels about specific.
So you want me to answer that?
Go ahead.
You can ask, but I won't answer. I'll say, look at their fund holdings, and that tells you that we like it enough to own it, but we like it where it is. Go ahead, Anthony.
I like Ascend. I like Ascend a lot, especially where it's valued at right now. I mean, they're doing formidable revenue in a very small footprint. Operational efficiency is good. Their SGA is good. This last quarter was good. Their wholesale business is singing. They're also pretty damn cheap, all things considered, with their 12-month run rate, forward 12 on an annualized run rate. I would say Ascend and this isn't I'm not saying buy it, I'm not saying whatever, but Ascend is probably one of the best buys in the space from a revenue to valuation perspective right now. And they have catalysts on the horizon as well, and a lot of adult use conversion markets. I think it's a great company.
Hey, I got something for you. Anthony's right. They have very good, they're good markets, they have good revenue. But then you have to, at an institutional level, you have to look at size, shares outstanding, liquidity, things like that. So do they look the same as what we call a tier one? No, they don't have that many shares outstanding. It's hard to own
what's the
really big ton of it.
What's the outstanding shares of the company? Can you quick top line that, either one of you?
Yeah, I can give you a rough number. I mean, it's roughly 100 million.
Okay, so not bad at all.
No,
you kind of outlined too, Anthony.
No, it's roughly 200 million.
200.
I don't know what the FDV is, but it's somewhere close.
Seems like a stock that just dances around that $1.30 threshold.
It hits. It's pegged to that $1.30 threshold. It's at 126 today. I bet you at some point this week it hits $1.32 again, and then just dances in that range.
Can you explain when a stock does that, what it means, Dan? I'm sure there's a lot of different, but why is it always just around that certain number that it dances $1.26 to $1.32? Is there a formula involved in that, or it's just the way it goes?
It's the way it goes. It'll dance around that number until it doesn't. And it's got to have a reason to move up, which means
it's to me, it's a good sign. If it's attached to that price point, and I firmly believe that the fundamentals are improving and there's a dislocation to market cap and valuation, that's when I'm going to buy the stock. When that damn thing is in that tight price range and you're not seeing swings. Yeah. I mean, it should limit your downside risk. Yeah. Not necessarily going to, but it should.
Yeah. And hey, if I was going to buy a bunch of it, I'm trying to get the best price that I can when I'm buying something. Right. So, retail traders don't think that just because somebody's buying something, it pushes the stock up. That's not the way things work. I'm trying to get the best price I can. It needs everybody buying it and the basic bid ask moving up. It ain't something I can control.
Yeah. No. Seth Jacobs writes, Anthony nailed it. There you go. Welcome back, Mr. Varrell. Looks like I already missed you. Dan, as usual, always appreciate you checking in here on Mondays, and just not anything pressing here today, but just always good to get some dialogue and get some feedback and some opinion. And appreciate you always checking in here. But have a great week. And I'm sure you'll be watching the Boyce lawsuit along with the review of the Farm Bill. So some interesting things, obviously, on the horizon here this week. But next Monday, you guys are actually both on holidays. So we'll probably see you back here in 2 weeks from today. So in the meantime, enjoy. If you are around, let me know. If not, no worries. But
I'm around next Monday.
Are you?
Yeah, I'm around next Monday as well. I'm not planning to go as of yet.
I don't get holidays, Shad. Sometimes I have to go to board meetings and things. But
brother,
is the market closed? Is the market closed?
Oh
yeah, it's Memorial Day.
That holiday. I'm sorry, Shad.
Yes.
No, I'm not around on Monday.
I should have just done what Lucifer said earlier. Just turn off my camera and lights and just sit in the corner during the podcast. Anyways, glad everybody loves me over here. But anyways, Dan, appreciate your time. We'll check back in with you 2 weeks, confirming 2 weeks from today, with next Monday being a holiday. Okay, bud?
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right. Good to see you, sir. All right. That was good. All right, champ. Good to see you back. Good to see you healthy. Yeah. Good to see you smiling again. I know last week was a tough week for you, but a lot of people reached out and obviously appreciated a lot of the hard work that you put in towards the earnings season. But good to see Mr. Varrell is back.
No go Mavericks. And thank you.
Appreciate that, Henry. By the way, Bill McNarland, the man that does his homework. He's explaining some things to me that for the average person that spends $10 at Walmart makes about 10 cents off of that. How? I guess that's a question I'm going to have to ask next. But he's talking about, yeah.
How does that make any sense?
It's a question I'll have to ask him.
For every $10 someone spends, they make 10 cents?
based on base labor costs, you know, all this.
So that means their margin. That means their margin's 1%.
Something like that. Yeah. But yeah, there was a lot of interesting stuff that he talked about regarding a few restaurant stocks and McDonald's as well, what their costs are and how they're coming out with this value meal. Because the rise of prices, I think Coca-Cola is going to be sponsoring that whole partnership. You got a smile on your face. What are you looking at?
I don't mean to sound pretentious, but I don't know much about McDonald's or Walmart. I shy away from both those places.
We did have a good AI company that's partnered with Avon Cosmetics, which is a global cosmetic brand, and their conversion rates based off of this AI company have an increase by over 300%.
I'm assuming it's got to do with something with the pigment in the actual makeup, that it runs like a model on your skin tone.
If you log on to our YouTube channel and check out our video from last night,
I will watch it.
You can learn more. But
listen, will watch it.
As usual, people, make sure to like and subscribe again. If YouTube wants to recommend these videos, obviously liking and commenting is a big, big component to make this go viral. So let's do whatever we possibly can to build this community. And once all these big mainstream audiences come in, we'll look back and say we were the original ones. So smash that like button, leave lots of comments. And again, log on to thedalesreport.com to find out all these companies we're following and why, to our baked in newsletter. Anthony, enjoy the rest of your afternoon, and I will see you back here on Wednesday.
Oh, also the ETH ETF.
Yes.
So there's rumors going around. There's rumors going around that an Ethereum ETF is actually going to happen. Ethereum's up like 15% right now. And ETHE, which is the grayscale, is actually up 24%. And then it's up a decent percent after.
Okay, so outline who you said who was a 25% chance has now increased their view to 75%.
The head analyst, I think I forget what investment bank, but the head analyst went from 25% to 75% on a potential Ethereum ETF, as he thinks Biden and the SEC are now going to make crypto an election issue, especially after Trump started to gravitate towards it last week. So, I mean, that is something to definitely watch. Ethereum could easily go back past 4K. Where it has been for some time now.
25 to 75%, just like that. That's a big, we'll see.
It's a big jump.
That's a huge jump. The maturity of that industry, which is great to see. December 2022, when you and I in New York with Kevin O'Leary, that man needed a break after the whole FTX fiasco. By the way, that Tom Brady roast was incredible. Nikki Glaser was incredible.
I thought it was a little long. I mean, who the hell's going to sit there for 3.5
long?
Who's going to sit there for 3.5 hours and watch that? It was funny.
Tom, how the fuck did you lose $30 million? Even Gronk knew it was fake money. No, not me, not real money. I'm like, that is amazing.
It was funny that the only person that was untouchable was Robert Kraft.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Did you see that interview later with I think Nikki was on Howard Stern, and I guess in the green room before the roast began, they were saying like no massage jokes, and Jeff Ross, who's obviously the roast master, basically comes out with one of his first few jokes and says that, and you didn't know if Brady was serious or not, but he
was dead serious.
He was dead serious.
Brady was dead serious.
Yeah. But man,
nobody can touch Bobby Kraft.
When I saw him and Gronk actually like come up and give each other a handshake, those dudes are big. These are big dudes. Like, I didn't realize how tall Brady was.
I think Brady's 6'4".
He's got to be at least that.
Gronk is 6'6".
He's taller than Gronk. Brady's taller than Gronk.
No.
Yes, I saw them. Check it out. Go into Netflix and check out the roast. They shake each other's hands, and Brady's about an inch or two taller than him.
I thought the funniest thing was the Aaron Hernandez jokes. I wasn't expecting that at all. Yeah.
Who's the guy? The podcasters? Oh my God, what's his name again? Not Andrew Schultz. The two guys, the tandems that went up there. The one guy.
I haven't watched it. I've watched like pieces of it. I can't.
Man, those guys are
3 hours. I can't devote 3 hours to watching that.
Yeah. Anthony Gambino, I like you, Shad. Keep up the great work. Hey, there we go. Self-esteem's going up. Most quarterbacks are 6'5". Lucifer, you want me to comment? Do you want me to go back into my corner? Anyways, okay. Now I mean it. I will get out of here. But everybody, thanks again for logging on, and we'll see you guys all back here at 4 o'clock on Wednesday.
See you every Wednesday.
See you guys. Hey everyone, thanks for watching our latest podcast. Lots of momentum building. You guys getting all excited? Leave comments below. Again, we want to take this viral. Smash that like button and make sure to click on that bell for all notifications as we start to bring on bigger and bigger guests. Don't forget to subscribe to our daily newsletter, the Baked In newsletter, by logging on to thedalesreport.com. And we want to take this viral, as I said, and make this community grow. So make sure to subscribe on that channel because we wouldn't be here without you. Thanks again, everyone, for watching.